Hello everybody. Today I'm going to be discussing network engineering, Python, automation, and don't believe the hype. So it's going to be a bit of a mixture. Firstly, I'm going to just go through what Cisco DevNet and automation of a network involves. And then I'm just going to write some code to gather network information using Python. And then we will just discuss how you can use Subprocess with Python to run Linux built-in network utilities such as TCP dump, nmap, traceroute, and plenty more if you so desire. So what we'll do first is actually just have a little bit of a moan about about, if you watch my videos, you're probably used to me moaning, but I try to always break something down and then show you a positive at the end. That's okay. So what we're going to just look at is this Cisco promotional video. Right, let's just go back to the start. So this is a Cisco. If you're not familiar with Cisco, Cisco are probably, I think they're the 41st largest company in the world, and they provide network routers, switches, firewalls, phone system, WebEx. If you've used that, that's all Cisco. So the reason why I'm showing this on a Python channel is because they are heavily promoting the migration to automation and software-defined network, SDN. So let's begin. And I'm just going to fast forward this or start playing this video. So what we'll see is some kind of clip art. I don't know if it's called clip art. Is it clip art? Some library footage of videos. So here we've got a man looking at his laptop, and we've got lots of people sat in a nice clean office. Oh, and somebody wearing sunglasses outside a skyscraper. That's good. Okay, this is a bit more lifelike. Again, it's still just an office. It's not really a data center or a large secure room. And yeah, I'm just going to fast forward this. Here we go. So appealing to today's younger generation by glamorizing Cisco network certifications via the suggestion of tattoos. Network engineering heroes. So they're appealing to the emotional part of your brain because there's this suggestion of being a hero, and we all know what a hero is, you know, or comic hero, somebody who flies through the sky, who rescues people, who puts out fires like a fireman, or yes, you can be a hero, but you'll never get the recognition, because if you become a network engineer, you will probably be involved in an on-call rota, which is 24/7. You will be the one who gets a phone call at 2 a.m. in the middle of the night, it's dark, you get told that there's a major incident, and then you will either have to log on, and typically via several jump servers. And this is what you won't ever see on promotional videos and so on. Everyone probably assumes that you connect via some little icon on your Windows laptop, and then all of a sudden you've got the entire network in front of you. Well, I can tell you that's not true. Not true, because typically you will have to connect to various locations. Even if you're working for one company who has access to everything, you will still have multiple locations for redundancy and failover. So you would typically need to connect to remote locations. The connection won't always be the quickest. There's various reasons for that. Typically you will be accessing via a separate connection to, so you may think, oh, well, data centers, everything's 10 gigabit, everything's super fast. Yeah, the connection you're connecting on won't be that connection. So You'll access a remote data center at 2 a.m. in the morning. And then the suggestion that you will be the hero, that is not true. You will be the person doing the work. You will be the person getting messaged via Teams, Skype, whatever. Have you fixed it yet? Have you fixed it yet? Provided you do fix it, it's unlikely you will, because typically a problem at 3 a.m. or 2 a.m. in the morning is very rarely hardware. It's typically something way off in your provider network, whether it's super fast businessfiber.com or whatever they may be called. I'm not going to name and shame any UK providers. It could typically be something to do with BGP routes that have been updated, or something failing over due to software. Hardware is rarely the issue. Although when it is, it's typically because the hardware is 10 years old and something's not been replaced when it should have been. Power supplies are quite a frequent cause of failure. Then you get failover, and if something fails over, occasionally you'll get issues with, again, you need to look at the log files. This is more an issue of not being a hero, but sitting patiently at a laptop and searching through log files. So you're not putting out fires or rescuing kittens from trees, I can tell you that. Anyway, you won't be a hero because there'll be a manager above you, an incident manager or their manager. They'll be the ones who are very articulate, very charismatic, and they will be the ones who then go and report back to the CEO or whoever, or to the customer. They'll be the ones getting the pat on the back. And if you're lucky, the following morning, you'll get an email from them saying, thanks for your help. So just to clear this up, you will not be a hero. Fact. Okay, next. Opportunity to write history again. What? Personally, I find that unlikely. Transformation of IT infrastructure. Okay, so I know this is a bit of a departure from web scraping, but this will, trust me, I'm going to link this back with Python, because Cisco are trying to link everything with Python. It's their latest buzzword. And are they hijacking it? Well, transformation of IT infrastructure, we've got it right here. So why do you think Cisco would like transformation of IT infrastructure? Anybody know? Because by promoting DevNet, automation, Python, brackets, Cisco very firmly pinned their colors to the mast with Python. And we'll look at that in a bit. Transformation of IT infrastructure. Basically, that means take out all your old equipment, which is still running fine, because give them their dues. Cisco hardware is very, very, very reliable. Transformation of IT infrastructure means you go and buy a load of new equipment off of them. This is the problem, a bit like the old days with the everlasting light bulb and tire manufacturers, the Goodyear and Pirelli and so on. In the old days, they had to try and compete on whose tire would last longest. But that's not good for business, because if they make a tire that lasts twice as long, that halves their sales. So anyway, transformation of IT infrastructure. This is by selling this idea that you can be a hero and you can change the world. This is planting the seed in your head, or in your business leader's idea. If they see this, they'll say, well, wow, we need to do this. And then this leads you down the route of replacing your existing infrastructure. And typically, up until now, buying infrastructure involved getting a large cardboard box, or two large cardboard boxes, because you buy two of everything with networks because of failover. It would arrive, you would configure it, put on some little brackets, insert it into your comms rack in your data center or in your comms room. Green lights, happy days. But No, that's half of it, half of the cost. The other cost is licensing and ticking the boxes. Which features do you want? And again, it's always upsell. So if you're familiar, well, anything you buy in life, the pricing structure is always rigged to make it more beneficial for you to pay a small supplement to actually get the package that you really wanted anyway. Anybody who subscribes to satellite television will probably be familiar with this, or broadband. So, for instance, you could get 20 meg broadband for £20 a month, or you could get 80 meg broadband for £25 a month. So the price increase is 25%, but the speed increase is what's that? 20 to 80. So that's 4 times. Let's watch some more. Wow. So IoT. So that they're showing a jumbo jet being built. I can assure you that most of the networking world is not related to jumbo jets. Most of the world of networks is related to infrastructure and networks for companies that make paper, or companies that make dustbins, or companies that process insurance claims, or councils that take money off you for your recycling bin. Not all linked with the glamorous world of manufacturing jumbo jets. Okay, that looks like a really happy office. They've got coffee, croissants, fancy laptops. I don't actually see anybody there with configuring any new hardware or internet things. Okay. Cloud. Again, we've got this aeroplane taking off, and it's a subliminal suggestion that everything's about to take off and everything's going really fast. This is not entirely true. Replacement of infrastructure, network infrastructure, whilst everything is migrating to the cloud, there is also a lot of work maintaining existing systems which are now 10 years old, maybe more. Typically in the UK, there was a large shift towards between kind of 2005, 2010, where a lot of equipment was replaced because of the introduction of IP telephony and Wi-Fi networks. So there was, to run a Wi-Fi network, they needed more switches, PoE, power over Ethernet switches, so you could send power to the wireless access point. So all of a sudden, buildings, airports, train stations, all of a sudden started sprouting wireless access points everywhere, and they all went back to some Cisco, typically some Cisco switches. So that equipment has probably been in for 10 years, and whilst the migration may or may not happen in whatever sector you're in because of money, the existing stuff will need to be maintained. So maintaining old software is quite tiresome, and I think if anybody saw one of my most popular videos, which was how to create a Word document, multiple Word documents using Python. And the whole point of that was so that I could automate the creation of 100 virtually unique Word documents. But the only things that changed in that Word document was the location of some hardware and the IP address of the hardware and some contact details. And I was making 100 of those because typically you will be upgrading hundreds of old pieces of network infrastructure, and the sight of an aeroplane taking off, really, that's planting the thought into people's head that if you don't quickly subscribe to Cisco's latest software licensing plan, you're going to be left on the ground, and all your competitors are going to be taken off and flying into the sky. and cloud, obviously, cloud and aeroplanes. There's a lot of power of suggestion, subliminal. Platform capabilities. Okay. The other thing is by showing this, it's also giving existing network engineers a fear of FOMO, fear of missing out. No, I can tell you that you can only use much of this software if your company has OS 16, 16.5, whatever. Most existing infrastructure in a smaller data center will not be capable of doing these things. Okay, so here again, to be honest, I'm doing it. It's this modern preoccupation with coffee. It's like, I think in the old days people used to smoke, drink. Now coffee is equivalent to kind of a comfort blanket. It's like yeah, it's like comfort food. And here we go. Here's a happy smiling man with a coffee and an iPad. I can tell you, it's not like this. Typically, it will be you struggling on your own, carrying two enormous boxes, putting them on a trolley, and wheeling them down a very, very noisy aisle in a data center. Data centers are incredibly noisy because of all the fans. And depending on which aisle you're in, there's a hot aisle and a cold aisle, because this creates convection, the travel of the movement of air, and obviously the movement of air between hot and cold creates a draft, and the draft then creates a cooling effect. Anyway, let's watch some more. Okay, so wow, they're looking at a whiteboard. Okay, more cloud, more brains cloud. Very busy highway at night. Coffee again. This is absurd. Engage with industry. This is marketing speak. This is not network engineering speak. Okay, code. So again, we're looking at a GUI. I'm hoping to see somebody actually typing in terminal on a Unix or Linux. Again, we've got these dreaded little succulents and pot plants everywhere. Oh. Code exchange, automation exchange. I can't see anybody on GitHub yet. Okay, so here we've got loads of middle or senior managers in smart clothes. They haven't got dust all over them because they've just carried a large box down an aisle in a data center. Okay, phased based learning. Now everything this is part of the reason why I do YouTube tutorials, because I just want to help people by giving them free information. I'm hoping this is free. This is actually comes across as free information and not just my cognitive bias. I have experience of many years working in the world of networks, and I'm Cisco certified, so I'll probably get struck off for making this video, but so be it. I do have I do have a tendency to speak the truth. So phase-based learning, what even is that? Everything is something learning. What? It's a buzzword, it's jargon, it's business BS. Oh, build dashboards. Again, this is the library footage. Can't quite see what code they're writing. That looks probably like got some angled brackets, so it's probably JavaScript or HTML. So really, you're not being a hero and building the future. All you're doing is you're modifying a web page to put different buttons on it or change the color of some text. Full stack telemetry, did you hear that? So again, they're making this sound like you're part of a Formula One team. I can tell you, full stack telemetry, what they're trying to do is they're trying to sell you the software to monitor the network with, and they want a slice of the pie which has traditionally been occupied by SolarWinds or Splunk or companies that do monitoring software and dashboards. So, yeah. Automate policies. Now, the actual overall idea of all this automation is fantastic, and please don't get me wrong, I'm not being negative for the sake of it. Automating a network is amazing because traditionally, if you provide a new service on a server and the IP traffic has to traverse 2 firewalls, multiple routers, you typically would have about 5 different locations where you would have to edit access control lists, change routes. In an ideal world, which this utopia, you edit a policy and push it out and it updates 2 firewalls, 3 routers, access control lists, permit, deny, and so on and so on. So the overall, the underlying technology and the underlying fundamental idea of all of this is amazing, but the reality is not drinking coffee in an office with bunting on the wall and lots of pot plants. And it's not all done on tablets or phones. It's not. It's typically done on 3 large screens because you have so much information and So what we're seeing here, this looks like a call center. I don't really, okay, carry on. Lots of coffee. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This obsession with coffee is outrageous. Does the whole of the Western world need to drink coffee because it's so tired, because it's so overworked, or because it was on call and it got phoned at 2 a.m. because there was an outage that was reported by one of these dashboards? Oh, I'm so happy. I know I'm coming across a bit cynical, but if you've spent 10 years working with the networks, you probably would appreciate where I'm coming from. So anybody out there who's maybe 18, 20, 24, 26, 25, and you're trying to follow this Cisco network engineer, network hero career path, just take the marketing with a pinch of salt. That's all I'm trying to say. In a minute, I'm going to show you just some code, and we'll get down to some kind of, we'll get back to real life. But I just thought this was a very good introduction to what you may be exposed to. Learn to use APIs. So where else have we used APIs, everybody? Yeah, Python, web scraping, and so on. So part of my irritation with this is I was looking on Friday at the latest DevNet training program, and I'm not going to attempt to find it now because their website is a minefield. To learn their latest DevNet sort of associate exam and get the training materials, $800 for 6 months. After 6 months and 1 day, your access to that online training material locks out. So let's just say this again: $800 for 6 months access. After 6 months, access gone. You've basically got 6 months to study like mad, memorize all these things, access their sandboxes, and then take the exam. And I'm not being cynical, but I've not seen people like this in the data centers where I've worked. Networking, become a networking legend of tomorrow. So we've got hero, and now we've got legend. This is marketing BS because it's appealing to your emotional, trying to get an emotional response to get you very excited. So that you'll pay them $800 to sign up for their 6-month course, and then you'll go out into the world and you'll preach the world of automation, and you'll preach the world of AI and ML to recommend that your company, your employer, your boss, you'll just nag them to get the latest Cisco software that runs all of this software, which is also licensed. So whoever's you're working for who has this hardware will be paying monthly forever. Like everything, like as we know, Netflix, Spotify, and so on. So this just was going. But up until now, stuff has just worked for 10 years in a data center. As long as it's behind 2 firewalls, then there's no problem. Right, next. Okay, rant over, but hopefully I've just shown a bit of realism there. So, after all that excitement, are you ready to watch me do some code? What we're going to show is actually the real Python code for networks, and I'm just going to start without actually any Cisco hardware involved, but we're going to talk about networks. And title of this: Python code for networks, useful for awareness of security or hacking. Now, if any of you go off and do any hacking, that's not my fault, and end up in prison, not my fault. What this video covers: listing in interface information. So we're just going to give a bit of a preview, or a bit of a, we're going to have a bit of a look at getting interface IP addresses, netmasks. We're going to learn how to use PSUtils with Python and tabulate with Python. So you see this nice output that we've got on the screen here. That is produced by tabulate. So even if you're not interested in networks, but you are interested in visualization via the command line, then tabulate is nice. PSUtils, again, this is not Cisco specific, so wherever possible, I'm always going to try and keep as much of what I show you transferable, because in this day and age, things move so fast, and you don't want to get locked into one vendor, so you want as much transferable skills. And specialized, sure, yeah, that's good, because you'll get paid more if you specialize, but don't get locked in. So specialize, but try and always, in the back of your mind, just think, I need to think how this knowledge is transferable. So if you know about the OSI model, if you know about frames, MAC addresses, IP addresses, TCP, UDP sessions, the application layer, that's the OSI model. So that's an international standard. So Cisco can never, they can never colonize that or hijack it and then stop anyone else from having access to that knowledge. So yeah, wherever possible, if you're learning anything to do with networks, try to keep it transferable. So yeah, if you know, you can work out IPv6 addresses in your head, or if you know what the header of a packet is and so on, then that's good, because that's transferable. Use an argument, use a start argument with a list. So I'm going to show you how you can have multiple arguments in a list and then pass that as a dictionary value. And then I'm just going to show you how to call some Linux network utilities with Python. So when I say Linux network utilities, I mean TCP dump, very useful. So if you've ever seen Wireshark, that's the GUI version of TCP dump, effectively. You may or may not use that if you've ever been doing any kind of wireless Wi-Fi reconnaissance, or a wireless survey. Typically you'll get a PCAP file which you can then open up and look at with pretty colors and analyze. TCP dump, nmap, and yeah, trace route. So the proper trace route, not the tracer T that Windows gives you. Okay, I'm not going to moan about Windows. That's heard me do that before. Okay, so let's look at some code. So really, this is what you're going to get, and this is all from a Python script. So if you wanted to do some information gathering or a pen test or security check, you could typically run a script like this and gather some information about IP addresses and netmasks, so on, and what interfaces you have on a machine. So there we can see LO is a loopback address, Ethernet port 2.0 probably, tunnel, so that's a VPN connection that I've got running, and so that's a logical address. That's not actually a physical. That's not a physical card in my PC, and I've got wireless turned off because I have, well, because my machine is directly connected to my router via Ethernet. So let's begin with some code. Okay, so we're in VS Code. All I've done is already installed Tabulate with it, which is a Python package that you can install with pip, and I've installed psutil. So first thing we'll do is we'll actually import those. So let's import psutil, and then we'll, with Tabulate, we'll say from Tabulate import Tabulate. Tabulate is not entirely necessary, but it's just a way to present the neatly on the screen. So import. Okay. Next, what we want to do is create class. Create a class. So what we'll do is we'll just say, so we'll create a Python class and we'll call it network details. Sorry about my typing. Object. Then def init. Right. Def init. So the first thing we do is we create an instance of the class, and then we will say, so if you're not familiar with object-oriented programming, this will become, as time goes by and you learn it, this will become very familiar to you. So what we're going to do is we're going to create an instance, and we'll call it inst for instance, and then we're just going to basically start psu. We're going to call psu till, then there we go, it's already at the top. So if we select that, it psu till dot net underscore if underscore addrs. It returns the addresses associated to each network interface card installed on the system as a dictionary. So that's a Python dictionary, which is going to have some values, and the values will be 127.0.0.1 or 192 family. So the family can either be socket.af underscore inet or inet6 or af link. So that's either IPv4, IPv6, or a MAC address. So if you use VS Code as your IDE and hover over the function, then option. Just remind it, family af underscore inet IP. Good, so far so good. So all we've done really is we've created an empty class, and we've just called psutil.net. So that's going to actually go and get us the information and save it into an object. Next, we need to write something that actually extracts the information and loads it into some variables. So scanner self again. So everything will always have the self in the brackets. Then we say self. So we need to create some variables now. So we'll say self.interfaces. We need to create some empty lists, variables which are empty lists. So Python lists. We will gradually add to these lists. We'll add to these lists and build up a list of information which is related to the interfaces. So we'll interfaces, SIP, then we'll do stuff. Want that. I'm just including it here in case it's something you want. Typically, I would not really need or want. Depends what you're doing. So, again, broadcast. It entirely depends on what you're trying to do, whether you need the broadcast in the task. I'm including it here for completeness. So let me say we're going to iterate through the items, and then we're going to extract keys and values. So we're going to say for base name, base address, that's key value, in, that's for key, comma, value, in, then it's Python dictionary, then it's item, so we'll say inst item. We're getting the item from our that little squiggle will go once we hit it. So interface name, interface. So that should get us 4 interface names and 4 interface addresses. So we want to add or append faces and append the interfaces to effectively to our list of append face. So then we will have number 4, we'll have 4 interfaces. Well, on this machine, if it's yours, you may have 3, 2, 5, 6, depending on how many and logical network interfaces you have. So that's going to build our list of faces. Then we need to say then each address in that list of face addresses, we then need to go and get relevant information. So for addresses, do a site when if get the script, so we're going to get returned object which we need to, if the address family string of the address family of, so the address family is coming from psutil, check to see if it's AF inet, so if it's an IPv4 address, we get that and then string self address key. Then we need to end that with, so that address is the iterable address dot. Do that 3 times. Do that for netmask. I just remove that and then I'll netmask broadcast change mask. Good, so we've okay, that's all looking good. So we've got a list of interfaces, and then for each of those interfaces, we're going to then go through and extract the address, IP address, the IPv4 address, the netmask, and the broadcast address, if they exist. Right. So far, so good. I'm not going to panic about these just yet. And right, so we've extracted the information. We've set it to some variables within our instance. And next, let's create so this is forward data what I'm putting here is what's actually going to appear with the help of tabulate. We just want to get however many lots of self so interfaces. Interface will be column title, and then however many values, list values there are in self.interface that will then dictate how many rows of data you get. So interface column header, then self.interface, there's 10 items in there, then obviously we'll get 10 rows in tabulate. All will become clear. If you remember back at the start, we had 4 rows. There should be 4 values. We're using the asterisk operator because we don't, it's dynamic, so we don't know exactly how many values there will be. The code needs to stay dynamic. So that's, again, it's not space. The self dot okay, and then there, that over there. So obviously broadcast is only relevant for network, and we won't get a broadcast address on our tunnel either. Point-to-point network. So good so far. And next, we actually need to create a tabulate object so that we can print to the screen. So we need to turn, and this is kind of I'm typing this. I forget what the word is. I'm kind of just typing. I'm winging this, so I'm not vastly experienced with. So let me look at my notes. Headers equals keys, and format. GitHub is basically kind of the formatting. Format a fixed width table for pretty printing. Okay, so far so good. Oh. Anybody spot the error? Gone. See that? So I had red squiggle under there, and I thought, well, there's nothing really wrong with my code. But however, look up here, the indentation. Good old Python indentation. So highlight all of that, tab, fixed. That's all good. So with me so far, what we've done is we've initialized an instance, a class instance with Python. So that's basically like a template. Then we've created 4 variables, and then we've said set all of these variables dynamically based on the information we get back from psutil. Then we've created a dictionary where we've got an unknown list of values, but testing, I know that the actual quantity is 4. So when we've got an object which our class will return, we're going to be a tabulate object which we then need to, so we turn it back to a string method and self, and then what we will do is we will return string of scanner. So by using object-oriented programming, you can see there's a lot more typing really. But what it does do is it gives you the power to create many instances of this, and it makes accessing variables easier. You don't have to keep passing. You don't have to keep passing the response from the previous function to the next one in the brackets. You just pass self. Okay, so I think we're ready to do what you've probably seen me do with Scrapey. I'm in practice. Main driver, and then we say if thunder name main colon, and we just want to print, and then we just call our function. So okay, network details, and we need to put the brackets, otherwise we'll actually just get the object. We actually want the contents of that object. That's the code, everybody. This is where I'm going to hold my breath and run it. So if you're ready. Oh, interesting. I've just printed the object. Because I typed return. That's what happens. You talk and look at your previous line of code and type it at the same time. Try again. Oh, sorry about this. Let me pause that. I'm going to fix. Okay, I've just fixed a couple of things. I had FMT. It should be table FMT with tabulate. So yeah, if you've been following along, I typed that wrong to start with. It should be table FMT. I had incorrect indentation here. My excuse is that I've made the font a lot larger to do this tutorial, so I lose track of the indentation. So that's my excuse there. And yeah, I had a typo somewhere as well. It was indentation was the problem anyway. So I was only getting one. This was wrong, and I had the indentation. So I'd like to see the code running successfully. Let's just get ready, do a drum roll. There we go. So tabulate has done this nice output for us, pre-printed it to the screen. We've got a loopback address, which is a logical base. Should have that on your machine. This one, you may or may not have one called that name. So loopback, Ethernet, that's my VPN, which is a logical point-to-point, so there's no broadcast address. There's no broadcast address for the loopback adapter, and the wireless LAN has no IP address, netmask or broadcast, because I have disabled it and it's not actually connected to anything. So there we have some real-world example of Python code being used to collect network information, well, layer 3 IP address information from a device on a IP network. Now, did you see any skyscrapers, pot plants, people in offices laughing? No, didn't think so. So next, let's just quickly, I just want to quickly show you this, because just to wrap up, this is how to call some built-in Linux network utilities using Python. So it's not just you can call any built-in Linux utility using import subprocesses sub. You need to have sudo. You need to be able to have root privileges to run. So that's sudo. Then the name of utility. So tcp trace root nmap. I could call ls or copy or make dir, same difference. These are some command line switches which are related to dump, so that's not to do with Python as such. Then we just want to pipe, so standard out equals subprocess pipe, and then we just iterate through that output, read each line, and then print it to the screen and do a write strip. So what I'm going to do on my network, I don't really want to just show you all my IPv6 and my inner workings of my network, but what I will show you is this. There we go. So I can't run it from here. So what I'll do instead if I can. Yeah, I can. So I'm just going to do sudo. This file is called. Did not take complete. Okay. Oh, Python. Python dump.py. Now, when I run this, what's this going to do? Is this going to run traceroute? If you're used to Windows, it's traceRT, and it's just going to reveal the path from my internet connection through to Google's DNS server. And there we go. So within 9 milliseconds, it's left my network and gone off to the carrier-cust.com. Then it's gone LDN, probably the point of presence in London. And then from the carrier, it has then gone off to Google. And then from Google, Google has then redirected it to their particular DNS server, which I would imagine is probably somewhere in Europe, possibly somewhere in London, I don't know. 888 won't be this. There's not just one server in the world that will respond to 888. If you know anything about BGP, that you can have multiple servers with the same IP address. An IP address is just a logical address. It's not actually a physical address. So the physical address is at layer 2. That's a MAC address. So it's really here we've been looking at layer 2 and layer 3. If you want to know more about Cisco DevNet, then have a read. But a lot of that will then be focusing up at layer 7 and software-defined networking, automation, ML, artificial intelligence, all that good stuff will be basically presented at layer 7. So for those of us who are still stuck in the dark ages and who haven't spent thousands and millions of pounds on upgrading to the latest Cisco hardware, this is more relevant to what you will do on a daily basis. So if you're learning Cisco, then I hope I've just shared an insight into using Python with networks and IP addresses in general. This is not Cisco specific, and I've just hopefully just made you think about whether everybody actually works in a skyscraper and drinks coffee. Some people work in noisy, hot data centers carrying large metal objects and can be on call 24 hours a day. So yeah, you'll get a call at 2 AM in the middle of the night and you will not be the hero. You will be the dog's body. And even if you're very, very high up the Cisco pyramid, you may still get a phone call to help fix something, and typically it will either be a power issue or it will be something failing over, or it will be a carrier. So when I say carrier, that's people at the far end that your traffic is handled by. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope this has been very interesting. Don't treat it as a moan, it's merely an insight into the real world, and I've shown you some real world code and shown you how to do some object-oriented programming and how to call Linux network utilities using Python and Subprocess. So thank you for watching, and I will be back soon with some more videos. Don't forget to do all the usual comment, like, because of the algos, subscribe. I've even got a screen here now reminding you to subscribe, so there's no excuses. Yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll be back soon. So until the next time, thank you. Bye.